Those were the days.
I love you, Daddy.
Well, your daddy certainly loves you, little girl.
For presents for little Joey, too? Let me see, $5 a week, 52 weeks in the year, 5 times 52, 5 to 2, 10, 50.
Taxi meter's running out there, you know. You better call them two out of the kitchen, huh? Yeah, you better do that.
Michael, the cab driver's honking.
You had no right to leave me that way without giving me just one more chance to say I love you.
Those were the days.
It is 1974. The phone at CBS headquarters is ringing non-stop. Norman Lear is in his office, staring at a stack of scripts where one name suddenly feels like a missing limb. Carroll O'Connor, the face of the biggest show on television, has stopped showing up. A contract fight has turned into a crisis, and the entire production is freezing in place. Lear has a problem, because if Carroll does not come back, the show either pauses or it does the unthinkable. It keeps going without Archie Bunker. Different people tell the story with different details, but the core stays the same. CBS and the producers had to prepare for a version of All in the Family where the chair in the living room is still there, but the man who owns it is gone. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Let us rewind. It's 1971. Richard Nixon is in the White House. The Vietnam War is still tearing families apart. Protest is in the streets, tension is in the air, and television is still supposed to be polite. Walt Disney World has not even opened yet. The voting age is about to drop to 18 later that year. And the Beatles broke up less than a year ago. CBS is about to air a sitcom that executives are scared will explode in their faces. The premise is a working-class man with ugly opinions, clashing with his liberal son-in-law in the middle of an ordinary American living room. Network bosses brace for backlash. Extra phone operators are staffed. A disclaimer is aired, almost like the network is holding up its hands and saying, "Do not blame us for what you are about to hear." Nobody knows this show will become a cultural earthquake. Nobody knows it will dominate ratings for years. Nobody knows it will change what a sitcom is even allowed to talk about. And nobody knows the actor playing Archie Bunker negotiated for an escape route, a return ticket to Rome, because he was convinced the whole thing would bomb. That actor is Carroll O'Connor. He is 46 years old. Born in Manhattan on August 2nd, 1924. Raised in Queens. He served in the United States Merchant Marine during World War II. He studied in Ireland. He later earned a master's degree in speech. He spent years scraping by with his wife Nancy, taking day work while chasing acting work, building a reputation through the 1960s as a reliable character actor, often as authority figures. And then in 1971, everything changes. When people picture Carroll O'Connor, they picture Archie in that chair, bellowing at Meathead, firing off insults, calling Edith a dingbat, becoming the loudest symbol of America's ugliest arguments. But here is what might shock you. Behind the most famous conservative character in television history was a liberal-minded, bookish perfectionist who fought constantly over scripts, demanded Archie stay human, and carried real-life grief that made Archie's problems look like noise. Think you know the real Carroll O'Connor? Stick around, because what follows changes the shape of the story, including a devastating loss that shattered him, a private family scar he carried for decades, and a crusade that helped push major legal changes aimed at the drug trade. Surprising truth number 1, the tragedy that changed everything. On March 28, 1995, Carroll O'Connor got the phone call every parent fears. It was his son Hugh, and he was in a place he had been battling for years. Not long after, Hugh O'Connor's battle ended in tragedy at age 32. Within hours, Carroll went on national television. You can hear it in his voice. This is not a performance. This is a father whose world has been ripped open, and grief is pouring out of him. But grief is not the only thing you see. You see anger, and you see purpose. He named a man on camera, Harry Thomas Perzigian. Carroll said Perzigian had supplied Hugh with illegal narcotics. Then Carroll said the line that turned his grief into a legal war. He called Perzigian a partner in murder. No careful language, no smoothing the edges. A direct accusation in front of the whole country. Hugh's story had layers that made it even more brutal. He had been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma as a teenager. He survived cancer treatment, but his life still spiraled. Over time, Hugh struggled with dependency issues for years. Carroll tried everything. Rehab, interventions, tough love. compassionate support. Nothing saved his son. He even tried to give Hugh an anchor through work. On In the Heat of the Night, Hugh played Lieutenant Lonnie Jameson across multiple seasons. Carroll hoped stability and purpose might hold him. It did not. Carroll also said he confronted Persigian before Hugh died, warning him to stay away. Persigian was arrested and later convicted on charges connected to the case. But the criminal case was only the beginning. Persigian sued Carroll for defamation, arguing the public statements destroyed his life. The trial turned into a crusade. Carroll used it to attack the supply chain and to argue that dealers should face civil accountability, not just criminal charges. The jury ultimately sided with Carroll, and the case became part of a wider push that inspired or strengthened liability laws in places like California and Florida. But no legal win brings a son back. Hugh left behind his wife Angela and a young son named Sean. Actress Denise Nicholas, who worked with Carroll on In the Heat of the Night, later spoke about how deeply the loss affected him. Here is the gut punch of the whole thing. Carroll spent years playing a man who resisted change and mocked progress. Then real tragedy hit his home, and he used that same stubborn intensity for something else entirely. He forced the country to look at addiction as a crisis with accountability, not just shame. Surprising truth number 2. He tried to rewrite the show from the inside. Carroll O'Connor was not the kind of star who showed up, smiled, and said the lines. According to multiple accounts, when he first read what would become All in the Family, he told Norman Lear he did not like it, then came back with his own rewritten version. And that set the tone. From that point forward, he fought for rewrites constantly, not because he wanted to be difficult, but because he understood the danger. If Archie became a cartoon villain, the show would feel fake. If Archie became a hero, the show would become poison. So he pushed, he argued, he protected the message, he protected the rhythm, he protected the thin line between laughing at prejudice and accidentally feeding it. Most importantly, he protected Archie's humanity, because that was the bait that made the lesson work. If audiences could recognize a real person under the ugliness, they might recognize that ugliness in real life too. That is the twist. The actor playing America's loudest bigot was one of the fiercest guardians of what the show was actually trying to say. He did not just play Archie Bunker, he helped build him. Surprising truth number 3, the strike that terrified CBS. By 1974, All in the Family had been at the top for years. Carroll had Emmys, the cast was beloved, the show was printing money for CBS. Then came the contract dispute. Money was part of it, of course, but so was control. Carroll cared obsessively about the writing, the rhythm, the message, and the way Archie was framed. He did not want Archie turned into a mascot for bigotry. He wanted the audience to laugh at prejudice, not cheer it. Carroll stopped showing up. Production stalled. Lear was furious. CBS panicked. The schedule needed episodes, and the network had to talk about the unthinkable. What happens if Archie Bunker is not available? Some later reporting claims writers explored drastic options, including killing Archie off and refocusing the show on Edith. Even if you strip away the most dramatic version, the truth underneath it is still wild. The dispute was serious enough that contingency plans were discussed, and the machine had to figure out how to keep running if the man in the chair stayed away. James Cromwell appeared around this era as Jerome Stretch Cunningham, and his presence is often brought up when people talk about the show needing flexibility during the conflict. Eventually, Carroll returned. The dispute ended. Archie lived. But after you have forced a network to imagine your replacement, something changes. Creative people can forgive a lot, but they do not forget the moment they felt replaceable. Surprising truth number 4, Nixon's private rant. All in the Family dragged taboo subjects into the living room and refused to apologize. Prejudice, assault, reproductive rights, social upheaval. The show hit topics sitcoms used to treat like locked doors. One early episode became especially famous, Judging Books by Covers, where Archie learns a friend is gay. Archie struggles. He says ugly things, but the episode forces him to confront a human being instead of a stereotype. And Richard Nixon noticed. The Nixon tapes later revealed him complaining about All in the Family, including its portrayal of homosexuality. He argued it was glorifying it. Then he went further. He made the sweeping claim that acceptance was part of the cultural decline that destroyed the Greeks. Think about that. The President of the United States was so rattled by a sitcom that he discussed it in private conversations and compared it to the fall of ancient civilizations. That is the level of impact this show had. It did not just start arguments at dinner tables, it hit the Oval Office. Surprising truth number 5. It was not an instant hit. People remember All in the Family like it arrived already crowned, like it aired once and America immediately surrendered, but the early reality was more fragile than the legend. CBS was nervous before the premiere ever aired. They ran a disclaimer. They staffed extra phone lines. They prepared for angry calls, complaints, and pressure from sponsors and watchdog groups. And here is what surprises people now. The show had to build. It had to find its audience. It had to convince people this was not a comedy celebrating prejudice, but a comedy exposing it. That was a tightrope. If Archie was too soft, the show lost its bite. If Archie was too monstrous, the show lost realism. And if viewers missed the point, the whole thing could have collapsed under the weight of its own controversy. So it fought for trust, one episode at a time. And once America realized what it was really doing, something changed. The living room became a battleground. People argued at dinner tables. People saw relatives in Archie. People saw themselves in the way the characters rationalized and tried to stay comfortable inside uncomfortable truths. Norman Lear later described offering the role to Mickey Rooney first, and Rooney reacting with fear about backlash, warning Lear the show could get him hurt in the streets. Even if you hear that as dramatic, the meaning is clear. Experienced Hollywood people thought this project was volatile, and that is why the Rome escape hatch matters. Multiple accounts say Carroll wanted a return ticket because he was convinced the show would not survive. Instead, it survived, then built, then took over. Surprising truth number 6, the only actor who won lead Emmys in comedy and drama. Hollywood loves boxes. Carroll O'Connor should have been trapped forever as Archie Bunker, but he did something almost nobody does. He won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a comedy series for All in the Family, and later he won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a drama series for In the Heat of the Night. The point is not just that he won, the point is what that required. Archie is timing, friction, rhythm, and precision, a character built to spark laughter while still exposing something ugly and real. Chief Bill Gillespie is gravity, restraint, authority, a man who can fill a scene with quiet pressure instead of punchlines. He escaped the shadow anyway. That is why the distinction matters. Carroll O'Connor was never just the guy who played a famous bigot. He had range most audiences never even got to appreciate because Archie's shadow was so massive. Surprising truth number 7, the man who answered the mail. By the 1990s, Carroll O'Connor was one of the most recognizable faces in America. 9 seasons as Archie on All in the Family, 4 more on Archie Bunker's Place, then years as Chief Gillespie on In the Heat of the Night. He was a household name, and the mail never stopped. Fan letters poured in from people who grew up watching All in the Family, from viewers who loved In the Heat of the Night, and from strangers who saw his public fight after Hugh's death and felt less alone. Most celebrities hand that off. Assistants, form letters, a polite machine that keeps fans at a distance. But Carroll had a different reputation among people who knew him. He was known for taking fan mail seriously and personally answering a large amount of it himself, especially letters from people writing about loss, addiction, or grief. When people asked why, especially as he aged and dealt with serious health issues, he gave a simple answer. It was the least he could do. A man with Emmys and fame still believing a stranger deserved a real response. That tells you who he was when cameras were off. Surprising truth number 8, the union line he would not cross. Carroll O'Connor did not just play a working class character. People who worked around him said he sided with working people in real life too. During All in the Family, there was a labor dispute involving crew members represented by IATSE. A picket line went up, and according to later accounts, Carroll refused to cross it. That stance cost money, it slowed production, it made executives furious, but it matched his reputation. He was not interested in looking pro-worker, he was interested in being pro-worker, even when it was inconvenient and expensive. Surprising truth number 9, his second act nearly collapsed in real time. By the late 1980s, Carroll O'Connor had already done the impossible once. He played Archie Bunker for years and survived being misunderstood by millions of viewers. Then, he pulled off a second reinvention. In 1988, he became Chief Bill Gillespie on In the Heat of the Night, and the show quickly became a major success. But behind the scenes, that second act came with a brutal 1-2 punch. First, his own health. In 1989, while the series was filming in Georgia, he underwent heart bypass surgery and missed episodes while recovering. Most people would slow down after that. Carroll did the opposite. When he returned, he increased his workload and took on a larger creative role as a producer. He pushed for control over scripts because he believed bad material did more than annoy you. He believed it could break you. At the same time, the production was dealing with another crisis. His co-star Howard Rollins was fighting addiction and legal troubles that became public after an arrest in 1988 involving drugs and drunk driving. Rollins missed episodes, went into treatment, and the series had to keep adapting to survive, and the show kept winning. While Carroll was recovering from major surgery and managing a fragile production, he was also driving the creative engine and trying to protect a talented partner who was unraveling. Most shows would have collapsed. This one stayed on the road. It is easy to remember Carroll as the man in the chair, but there was another version of him, a man who came back from a hospital bed, grabbed the wheel, and refused to let his second act die. Surprising truth number 10. The actor who was never supposed to be the star. After his time in Europe, Carroll came back to the United States determined to act, and the early years were brutal. He and Nancy lived cheaply in New York. He took day work to survive. He auditioned constantly. Rejection was normal. Success was rare. For years, nobody knew what to do with him, but he didn't quit. He earned a master's degree in speech at the University of Montana and kept grinding. Then came a break that sounds almost random. In 1958, Burgess Meredith cast him in an off-Broadway production of James Joyce's Ulysses. That single credit cracked the door open. Guest spots followed, small roles, slow momentum building. Through the early 1960s, he worked steadily in film and television, character parts, authority figures, the reliable guy who never got the poster. Eventually, he found himself in Rome for Cleopatra, part of that long stretch where casting directors knew his name but rarely thought of him first. Then Norman Lear called, and even then, Carroll was so sure the show would bomb that he negotiated that famous return ticket to Rome. He kept it in his pocket, ready to fly back to obscurity the moment the cancellation call came. The call never came. Instead, the struggling actor who nobody knew what to do with became the face of the American century. When Carroll O'Connor passed away in 2001, he didn't just leave behind a grieving family. He left behind a country that he had forced to look in the mirror. So here is the big question for you. Looking back now, do you think a show like All in the Family could even exist today? Or was it a lightning in a bottle moment that we will never see again? And I want to know specifically, who did you watch him with? Was it your dad, your grandmother, or did you discover him later as Chief Gillespie? Let me know your story in the comments. Because here is the final truth about Carroll O'Connor. He was not Archie Bunker. He spent years humanizing a man America loved to argue about, making audiences laugh at prejudice while still seeing the frightened humanity underneath it. And when tragedy struck his family in the most devastating way possible, he turned grief into a fight that outlived him.